hopefully it's not super windy for you guys, or the wind's not getting picked up too much. Feels pretty windy. That's annoying. My bad boys. Oh, what's that? This is my sitting stump. It's just harder than more. And a little bit more. Let's go to like 30, 40 mil. We out here. Just shining up the scenery a little bit because I'm always in my room, man, or my garage. And then third most popular place I feel like is in my car. So let's change it up. It's beautiful outside anyway, so you know your boy could use some sun. In my 2 videos ago, my last video I did a review for the Angle 90s. If you want to check out that video, that one's up. Also, that one's merged with deadlifting with a dumbass part 3 or 4. If you haven't checked that out, go check it out. Remember to leave a like on the video if you guys are enjoying them. That actually does a lot more than you probably think. And a comment on the video would also, like, throw me a comment, throw me a fucking bone. So, 2 videos ago, I was kind of just doing an update on my pec tendon, showing you guys my bench progress. I also, at the end of the video, I mentioned that I could do a video where I'm kind of just talking through like some of the phases I went through from beginning to like current day. So like different phases, I went from like month to month dealing with my pec tendon, starting with surgery. So I'm just gonna get right into it. Pretty much just answering a question of like my experience. Obviously this is gonna vary, and obviously it's not perfectly accurate. It's just kind of hard to tell like where I was, like say like 2 weeks and 5 days after. It's kind of just like a rough estimate about where my phases were. I'm not gonna say like the timeline, but I'm gonna go through it right now. So all my pec tendon phases I went through to current day Luke. So obviously I had my surgery. I couldn't move my arm. I had this like sling wrapped around my neck where there's pipes or these tubes running through that were like piercing my skin. So it ran like some type of like numbing shit through my veins and my nerves. So I couldn't feel anything in my arm at all. It was completely numb. Wow, why is it getting all windy all of a sudden? There's no way I can be filming in this condition. Alright, so I'm scrapping, sitting out in the woods, trying to explain this. It's just way too windy out. Didn't expect that. So obviously, I was on heavy painkillers. I was kind of just sitting still. I wasn't doing any workouts whatsoever. I wouldn't even say I was getting up to walk too much. I was drowsy as hell. These things were putting me right to sleep. And there was this, obviously there was no reason for me to be moving. I just needed a rest, right? I had my fat bandage on, I had a sling on, and I couldn't even move my damn fingers, and that sucked. But that was only for like about a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? Then eventually, second phase was pretty much, I got my sling off. I still had my bandage on. That was like a few weeks later, and I was doing like light lower body like every day. So it could be like body weight lunges, body weight squats. Maybe I threw on the vest if I was able to manage to get my arm through that, because at this point, like, I still don't really have any mobility. My arm did not feel comfortable moving like above my head. It was super stiff. This is probably a few weeks after is probably where I started to see my like chest starting to disappear slowly. It wasn't like an instant I lost my pecs and they were just completely gone. It was like a slow, pretty depressing like diminishing of the pec mass and muscle. It was slow. It was like, I'll get to that. So light lower body like every day. Bandage came off eventually. This is like a couple weeks later, or a week, maybe it was just a week or two later. I'm not completely sure. And I started getting to like physical therapy. I was going to physical therapy, I think 2 to 3 times a week, something like that, for like an hour or two, not even. They would just stretch me up, give me some exercises to do, which were super helpful. But that was cut short because of insurance purposes, insurance stuff, because it was towards the end of the year and it restarted, and I could have went back to physical therapy, but I chose not to. I already did like, I think 3-4 weeks worth of it, and at that point I pretty much had an idea of what I needed to do to get back into it. So obviously, if it doesn't have to get cut short for you, don't cut it short. It's super helpful to get physical therapy because they're literally professionals in rehabbing your tendons, muscles, just getting you back on your feet for whatever injury or instance that happened to you. So take their advice, even if it seems like far-fetched in some instances, some situations. Then I think somewhere between like the last week or so of physical therapy and moving forward past it, I was getting to like light biceps and triceps. Like I was doing like super light cable tricep extensions and like 10-pound dumbbells. I think I even have a video up on YouTube where I was like, these 10-pound dumbbells saved my arms. I got like an arm pump for the first time and I was like psyched, bro. I swore on everything that they like healed me. My arms were like back to full full size. I couldn't remember how I looked before, like, in my own head, I couldn't remember what I looked like. I thought I was, like, sort of kind of, like, swole again, just from, like, that one pump alone, which was good for my mental, don't get me wrong. But if I ever sift through, like, old pictures of myself before surgery and shit, I was like, I still look, till this day, I'm still like, damn, I took all that shit for granted. Like, I didn't know, like, I'm pretty proud of my physique looking back at it. It was pretty insane. I'm still not even, like, I wouldn't even say I'm, like, close to where it was in my prime, upper body wise, obviously. Eventually, after my PT started, I started doing, like, alright, I started doing push-ups on my knees, working back onto normal push-ups with no discomfort. So yeah, a lot of the chest movement and stuff really revolved around, like, comfortability. I started, like, slowly practicing doing push-ups on my knees, and that was as low as it gets. I didn't let it get to my head, obviously, but it was something that I had to, like, eventually just work back towards, and that was, like, push-ups. Like, I wanted to get back into push-ups. I wanted to be able to do a push-up. It was, like, it bothered me so much that I couldn't even do a damn push-up off the floor when I used to just be able to do 100. So, started off my knees, humble experience, and then eventually worked up to, like, super neutral grip, like a neutral push-up. Normally, I started getting into that, but I had my elbows super tucked, and I think a lot of it was being pushed through my triceps. Not a lot in chest engagement, and this was a phase that pretty much went from, like, the beginning to, like, I would say, like, 6 to 8 months where I just felt like I could not engage my chest at all. My left pec, sure. My right, I feel like, was never getting any blood access to it. There was no blood flow through it. There was no pump, like, whatsoever, and it used to really mess with me mentally, because I was like, if I'm not getting a pump, am I even working it? Like, I really couldn't tell, and it was definitely, like, super confusing for me. Because I was just so used to, like, getting these, like, stiff-ass chest pumps, and those were sick, and they used to just, like, fuel me and pump me up and shit. Then, if I remember correctly, I think I was getting, like, slowly into resistance band pushes to, like, get to actually feel something, like, and I learned the hard way. I would recommend, I'm just gonna say this right now, resistance band work, like, immediately when you feel comfortable enough, because that's where you're gonna feel the most mind-muscle connection, and you're gonna start getting the earliest pumps. I think, in my opinion, from my experience, trying to get into dumbbells and, like, letting your ego get into you is not gonna be, I don't think, the best approach when recovering from, like, a tendon or ligament tear. Your body needs to, like, slowly remind itself, like, I guess, what to do when, like, pushing with resistance. And I think resistance bands really, I think it just helps. I think it helps the most, okay? I still had, like, discomfort with dumbbells for a while, and eventually I did get back into it. And like I said, I think I rushed into dumbbells too fast. I didn't hurt myself, but I wasn't really feeling the connection. I wasn't feeling the pump. And yes, I was getting stronger. I don't really think it was the best approach. I think I could have been doing bands in between each set or doing something like that, and still working with my physical therapy recommended exercises, which I kind of threw away after I started feeling like, oh, I'm getting stronger already. Just honestly stick with it for a while. There's literally no rush, and I'm gonna tell you in a little bit why, because trust me when I say this shit's a marathon, bro. And I didn't mention this in the beginning, I still wasn't able to do pull-ups because of that really dramatic, aggressive stretch you need to get yourself into just holding yourself on the bar, and that was just, like, too much for my arm and my pec tendon at a time. So it took me a while to get back into pull-ups. Obviously, my back didn't really lose strength like my chest did because I didn't go through some, like, dramatic injury, but as soon as I was able to do pull-ups, I was able to do, like, right away, like 15 to 20 again. It wasn't really the lack of strength, it was the lack of just this discomfort. And it's a lot of mental. You feel like the stretch and you feel like it's gonna tear at, like, any moment. And I'm sure a lot of you guys going through this could relate, and it's a lot of it is more mental than actual physical. Obviously listen to your body, but there's gonna become a time where it's like, dude, you have to, like, you gotta start teaching your body what is actually gonna be okay and what's not gonna hurt you and what will, because you start to kind of, it starts to forget. This fan moving above my head makes me look like a freaking hat on or something. So it's been around, like, 4 months at this point, somewhere around that. And by May, I was able to deadlift pretty heavy, just being obviously super careful. Getting back into incline dumbbell presses, I kind of like just said that. And I was doing, like, a super neutral grip approach when I was doing dumbbells on incline. I was hugging my body with my arms and just pushing with, like, a very neutral grip. I wasn't, like, flaring out doing flies or anything fancy like that. Like, trust me, I was as safe as it gets. I wanted to make sure my whole body was in it. I wanted to make sure my back was retracted the entire time. My shoulders were tucked, that I wasn't like leaving my body too much because I didn't want to obviously put unnecessary stress on my right tendon. So that's about 4 or 5 months later, and that I had to deal with that for a while. That's a phase. It was a phase. So it wasn't like month to month. Some phases lasted more. Some phases were about 3-4 weeks exactly. So it really just depends. It's situational. But by the summer, it was pretty much a slow cruise with minor bumps in the road, like as you can expect. I was slow cruising, doing dumbbells, doing shoulders. Everything was pretty good. Obviously, I wasn't pushing like with 100% of my effort. It was a mental block. And it was just like me just wanting to be safe at the same time. Like I just didn't want to do anything that was just straight from my ego. As much as I wanted to do flat bench and just push mad weight, I guess that's actually not accurate because I had no desire for a while to even do anything with a barbell. No desire. Didn't care. Just wanted to be safe. Just wanted to get my muscle back. Just wanted to feel healthy again. Just wanted to feel confident again. And I mean with my lifts and obviously myself, because there was a self-confidence type of, phase as well when I was losing a lot of my upper body size that I felt like super flat, and it was again, it really messed with your head a lot. And let me go back through the first like 6 months. The biggest phase or the biggest thing I've noticed is when you tear your pec, you don't lose all that mass right away. It was like a slow decline of like my chest just getting smaller, flatter, and just less muscular, right? Even when I was getting back into doing like light dumbbells, doing resistant band work, and I was able to do push-ups, my chest was actually still losing size, and that's just because I wasn't matching what I was doing before I tore my pec. I was doing super heavy incline barbell bench, super heavy flat bench. I was doing super crazy workouts, and my body, obviously, my workouts, post surgery were not up to par to keep my chest to that level, to that degree. Like it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough work. So it kind of makes sense, and it was kind of depressing all at the same time. And then fast forward to now, obviously I'm back into barbell benching. That was like a year after that whole thing. I felt comfortable enough. I started getting back into barbell benching. Obviously my warm-ups have been super strict. Form has been pretty damn strict up until just 2 days ago. I actually re-strained my pec. I guess I didn't re-strain it. I just strained my pec because I never strained it before, but I tore it before, but I didn't tear it again. 2 days ago I was benching. I broke my form a little bit to get the extra rep. So my ass lifted off the bench, putting me more into what was originally an incline bench to almost like a slight incline bench, not necessarily flat, but changing the angle in which my body was pushing, and it added like a lot of stress to my pec because it wasn't warmed up in that position. I did it to get the weight up, but it wasn't the smartest and brightest move. So even now, still dealing with this shit, man. It's definitely super stressful. It's very, very annoying that I even have to think about it anymore because it's been over a year and change. It's just funny that I'm talking about this stuff again, and I'm still having I'm still have bumps in the road, man. You just have to be super careful. Make sure you're stretching, you're taking care of your pec, you're doing exercises, and your form is like pretty much as close to perfect as you can get, because there is no point in, like I said, don't rush in the beginning. Don't rush towards what you think might be the end of your pec being fully healed, because it's still just, it's not the same. And it's not gonna be the same for a while at least. It might never be the same. I'm not positive. I'm still learning, and I'm just kind of just telling you guys what I've learned and from my experience. So yeah, I strained my pec like 2 days ago, and I've been taking it easy, but no tear. No tear. It doesn't hurt. I feel a little bit of stress when I move or flex, but nothing crazy. I'm obviously just gonna keep an eye out on it and not be an idiot. So that's pretty much my phases, I think, for the most part. I think I covered about all of it. Like 20 minutes later. Oh, it's fucking beautiful outside.
That's it there. It is freaking magnificent outside.